A very good morning, Team Zimbabwe, and welcome to Africa and Beyond Television Network. And this morning, let us take a look on what is happening in the nation of Zimbabwe, as well as the SADC region. So there are reports that SADC has been summoned to the USA to explain the position of the SEOM report. So there's a report. It has been we have been trying to confirm the existence of this report, and we got a positive confirmation that the United States of America is continuously reminding SADC that the whole world is watching their due processes to correct the illegitimacy in the nation of Zimbabwe after flawed August 2023 elections. And the SEOM pointed out correctly the problems which made this election unacceptable across the whole world. So the SADC secretary, or the SADC executive secretary, was already supposed to travel to the USA to actually engage the government officials on Zimbabwe. And remember that USA is a very strategic partner of SADC in terms of funding, and they don't have any choice. They will have to comply, or else they will suffer funding issues. So what is of concern is why it is taking too long to resolve the political crisis in Zimbabwe after the SUM report. So, what is happening at this moment in time is there is a lot of bullying which is happening in this SADC region. South Africa and Zimbabwe, they have teamed up to bully the whole SADC region. And that is a very, very concerning issue to the whole world. So remember that very soon the SADC Secretariat is going to attend the IMF or World Bank spring meetings, which are scheduled from the 15th to the 20th April 2024 in Washington. And this is going to be used a key. SADC does not have any choice than to comply with the demands. What it means is, if SADC fails entirely to deal with the issues of Zimbabwe, number one, they might face sanctions themselves in terms of funding. The American government can choose to withdraw some funding on SADC, or military intervention happening in Zimbabwe. If America is to intervene militarily in Zimbabwe in the future, what it means is SADC will not have power to try and negotiate or stop that intervention, which is so bad, which means there is need for SADC to avert all those situations by simply coming on board and resolve the issues happening in the nation of Zimbabwe, deal with these issues decisively. So you would see that, yes, the IMF, the World Bank, these are controlled institutions on the issue of Zimbabwe. There is nothing more SADC can do to convince them, because remember, there was an issue of discussions which SADC and AU were supposed to help the nation of Zimbabwe to have its debt restructured. There is an issue of debt restructuring on Zimbabwean loans, which they failed to service, which means this is an opportunity which the US can take to lobby IMF, to lobby World Bank, not to listen to SADC in terms of debt restructuring, in terms of the nation of Zimbabwe. We have seen also the AU backtracking on that issue since the August 2023 elections. They are failing to find a breakthrough on the issues of debt restructuring at the UN, at the AU level. So there were discussions between the Africa Development Bank as well as the IMF and the World Bank and the government of the Republic of Zimbabwe, so as to find a solution, a lasting solution, or a payment plan, or see how they can meet the 15th to the 20th of April. And what is at standard stage is the SOM report, and the American government is going to compel SADC to deal with this matter. But the major question is, are they going to deal with it? Is SADC ready to deal with this matter? So personally, I believe that if there is anything meaningful to come out of SADC, it will come out of SADC after the May 29 elections, which are happening in South Africa. That is when you start to see SADC talking more about the events in Zimbabwe. However, at this moment in time, SADC is being overpowered because in South Africa is very key in terms of whatever which is happening in Zimbabwe. And without South Africa, there is nothing meaningful SADC can do. If you take a look in the past, during the era of Jacob Zuma is the person who then sent Thabo Mbeki to Zimbabwe to say, go and deal with the situation in Zimbabwe. If it was not about Jacob Zuma, then you would have seen Robert Mugabe cling on to power without the GNU for a very long time. But because of Jacob Zuma, Robert Mugabe gave in. So if Ramaphosa had given pressure on this current government, you would have seen things changing in the nation of Zimbabwe. You would have seen dialogue even happening. But because Ramaphosa is siding with the current government in Zimbabwe, there is nothing much to expect. So we have in the past we had that is compromised, South Africa compromised, which means these three key countries one of them is engaged, but the other two are disengaged, which gives a lot of trouble and a lot of problems to the opposition in Zimbabwe. So they cannot deal with the impasse or the situation in Zimbabwe. However, the economy of Zimbabwe remains where it is because there is no consensus on how to deal with things. There is no confidence, there is no trust in any policy which is being launched by those in authority. So this is what is happening. This is an update which is there. The SADC team has been summoned to actually explain the issues of 2023 elections about Zimbabwe. We'll see how this is going to end, but there are two possible outcomes. Number one, they might come and try to force things to happen. But if they fail in that route, it means SADC will not be able to speak or to deal with any other issue which will happen in the nation of Zimbabwe in the future. Vanenge vasina voice rekuti vange vachitaura kuti or to make decisions. They won't be able to do that in the future. So it's up to them to actually deal with this matter or ignore for good.